Hi guys, so future Kabelo here. I'm editing this video that you're about to watch, and I started feeling a little bit apprehensive about sharing, which I actually felt after recording sometime last year, September, October, and I decided against sharing then. But this is me feeling afraid and doing it anyway. I feel like it's just one of those things where you do a delicate dance of the right amount of honesty, sincerity, and vulnerability, knowing what purpose it serves to share it in an effort to help the next person. So I say this to say I think I'm opening myself up here, and I hope it will really help somebody. But I also wanted to say it's not just for the people who are dealing with rejection or disappointment, Chevening, or schools or applications. It's just, I think there's nuggets in there for everybody, because life happens to the best of us, right? So yeah, I hope you enjoy this. I hope it really does serve to help somebody. Please like if it does speak to you on some or any level at all. Please share it with somebody you think will benefit from hearing. Yeah, subscribe and share your own stories with me, or if not that, leave a word of encouragement for somebody in the comment section. Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. I am Kabelo Flopa, and today I don't think we ought to keep saying today, it's gonna be a little bit different. But after I shared a video, I think over a month ago, about how I'd gotten into certain universities and all of those nice things, I got DMs, people who want me to tell them how I did it, people with questions, people who would like clarifications, people who are in the process themselves and are looking for maybe support, especially as it relates to the rejections and the hurdles you have to overcome and keeping yourself motivated, so far and so on. And I realized in my quiet time that I watched videos very similar to that video that speak about things in hindsight. And it's, oh, I got admitted into New York University, Washington University, and it's peachy and it's butterflies, daffodils, roses, you know. But we don't speak about, first of all, I'm not saying anybody owes anybody an honest and sincere and vulnerable conversation about their rejections, but I think videos like that don't paint a full picture. And I just wanted now for my people in this little corner, our corner of the internet, to make this video to say, oh yeah, there's highlights like that when things are going really well, but then there's lowlights. And I wanted to share one of my own. There was many. I applied to 3 schools in the US and I got into 2 out of the 3. Seems like a really good outcome, and it is, but there's something else that was just as real, and I'm going to share that in today's video. So a little backstory: if you've been a friend of the channel, you'll know that last year, end November, yeah, I left my job. No plan, no savings, nothing. Just a girl who was burnt out and starting to sink into a depression and was overwhelmed with her job and life in general, deciding to take a break. But before that had happened, before I got to that point where I left my job, I had applied for Chevening. And the reason I applied for Chevening was because sometime in mid-October, I started feeling like my mind's really going to leave me if I keep waking up and coming to work and leaving and then sitting at home in my car in the garage for 2 hours and crying every day, and then crying every morning before I get to work, go home and cry. So I felt that it was time, but I also knew that my parents would never accept that I'm done and it's done and I'm just going to be a stay-at-home daughter and I didn't have a plan. Granted, they would feel for me and understand my need to take a break, but I also know I knew that I needed to have some plan as to how I'm gonna get on with my life when I finally felt like I had healed. So I think at that point, Chevening, in anything, the deadline was 2 weeks away when I started writing down my essays and having somebody proofread and generally looking to find something I could tell my parents that I was gonna go home and do, right? So I wrote my essays and I sent them in on the deadline. I didn't apply for universities because if you know, one of the essay prompts will be your choice to study in the UK and you're choosing those particular universities, the 3 that you're asked to list. So I'd chosen those universities, but at this point, I'm chilling. Was I chilling? No, I was not chilling. I just was very tired and I was really not thinking I could get anywhere with my application, right? I just did it so it can be done. But then in Feb, when the interview results came back, I had gotten an interview, right? I felt a lot of negative emotions, but more than a lot of things, I was beating myself up for not having taken this seriously enough to have gotten started on my application to the schools I'd listed, right? But I'd applied for the schools in the US. So by the grace of God, there's these application materials that I already had, and I could put essays together and just send, so that by the time my interview came around, I had done something. But I hadn't written my IELTS also. Like, past the fact that I hadn't applied to those schools, the IELTS requirement for the schools, not for Chevening anymore, it was important. So it was one of the things I had to pay for, I had to schedule, I had to prepare for, and I did. And then, yeah, I went around to the interview. It went great, but I started getting rejections. They'll ask in the interview if you'd like to change your schools or the order or I couldn't, because I just applied, and the manner in which I chose who did list that made sense to me, because my first choice was Leeds. Leeds, to me, at the time, don't judge me, it felt like a safety school. Again, don't judge me. But the reason I put it as number 1 is because I had a 2-2 and they were not too particular at the requirements academically. They wanted a 2-2. Actually, they said they could take even a person who had gotten second division, which is what I had. And then work experience was not specific to having worked in a public health field, because I was applying for masters in public health again. So they didn't require that you'd worked any public health job before, as long as you had a background that would be relevant to you studying public health. And I felt through the work I've done with Wellwise and working as a pharmacist, those had prepared me to study public health. So I put it as number 1. I mean, it makes sense, right? Leeds rejected me. York, my second choice, rejected me. And then Liverpool, my third choice, didn't get back to me. You guys, I laugh now, but I don't want to say anybody who's gone through the stress of Chevening will understand, because I think in our own lives, in some area of our lives, there's something you've wanted badly. Because after I got the interview and then I started watching the YouTube channels of the people who were in the UK as Cheveners, and I was joining Facebook groups, and because of how well my interview had gone, I just felt like I was starting to psych myself up for this opportunity. And finally, I was making my parents proud again. And okay, let me qualify that statement before. When I left my job, it was a good job. My parents were proud of me. I was doing well for myself, and every parent wants that for that child, right? When I left my job, my parents, we had conversations. It was not easy conversations, but we finally got to a point where they understood that I had made my decision and my mind was made up and I was not backing down. So the only thing they could do is support me and understand that I'm a stay-at-home daughter, and there's obviously they have to provide for me. I have to go back to the allowance for airtime and fuel and those things. And not that I think my parents were ever disappointed in me for getting to that point in my life. I just think they were really afraid for me. Like, there was just a lot of uncertainty with my future, especially as it relates to my job and the trajectory of my career. So especially guys, jobs are hard to come by. So there was just that. I think my parents were really afraid for me. So at this point, you're going to the interview and you come back and you say, nailed it. And then your parents are taking you to Joburg, Hulungola, your IELTS exam. And obviously now I'm not in bed, I'm not in the dark hole anymore. It seems like there's light at the end of my tunnel. I get it. And you can see, Hore, they are so interested. Like, how did it go? How are you doing? Are you attending a Zoom meeting? Are you? Because I was in touch with Liverpool trying to figure out, oh guys, I'm on a deadline. So I'd update them, got into the jalo, and they just had hope. My friends were optimistic. My sisters. So anyway, I just felt like people were just rallying around me because we all needed for this thing to work out. And it felt like I was just moving on from the 3 months that had been really dark and trying and bleak. And now there was this, and it represented a new life. It represented hope. We put everything, the prayers. I remember even my mom's friends were praying for me in the prayer group. I was praying for myself, guys. I was tithing at church. I was fasting. And then obviously months went by, and so I finally got my response from Liverpool and I'd gotten in, but they were not prepared to waive my IELTS requirement. Now, the reason I needed to have the requirement waived, even though I'd written the exam, was that I got great scores. Yeah, I think I had an 8.5 to 8.5 over 9 for the 3 out of the 4 bands, and then one band I had a 6.5 over 9, and I needed a 7, I think. So obviously my marks were not the Liverpool required. So even though I got my admission, it was a conditional offer, and Chevening needed me to submit an unconditional offer by I think it was the 14th of July. So at this point, how am I feeling? I have a lot of regrets because at the time I felt like had I started on the process earlier, I would have been cognizant and I would have paid attention to the requirements of the IELTS exams. So there's disappointment in myself. There's beating myself up about why couldn't I just the 0.5, why because the reason I didn't finish, I think it was the writing. I didn't finish my essay, part 2 of my IELTS exam. That's why I think I got a low score. So I was judging myself for that also. Guys, this was this year. Oh my god, I've gone through a lot. It is this year. It is. Oh my god, this was so recent. Oh, shucks. Why did it feel like it was last year? Yeah, it was this year in July. 2 weeks before my birthday was the deadline. I can't believe I got over that quickly. But yeah, I couldn't, because the one school that I had applied to couldn't waive my IELTS requirement. So when Chevening finally got back to me, I was a reserve candidate. So they didn't reject me. So even then I was judging myself, why interview good enough? Why for like a surefire thing? Because the people from Liverpool had also said, if you can provide proof you're secured with your scholarship, then we'll work something out. So it was, yeah. So anyway, that's the short of the long of it. I know when you speak about it in hindsight, it doesn't seem like it was ever that deep, or it just feels like, oh, okay, we make peace, we move, we apply again, or we apply for different scholarships, Fulbright and whatever. But guys, when I was going through this and I was in those groups and people are saying, oh, I passed my interview, or this is my 5th time and I finally got in, I just realized that this is, for me, it felt, I think maybe the reason okay kayona, it's not even because I have other admissions or I had contingency saying that, oh, if I don't get Chevening, I'll just go here. I wanted Chevening, with all of my heart. Once I started working, actively applying myself, after I submitted those essays and I started watching the videos and joining groups of people who are support Facebook groups, I wanted Chevening with all of my heart. And I didn't want it just because I wanted to make my people proud. I didn't want it out of the selfishness of, oh, I left my job, so I have to find something else. After writing those essays, and I realized what I'm passionate about and what my life goals are, and how I'm hoping the trajectory of my career will go, I really felt like Chevening was the perfect opportunity to align myself with. I wanted it really, really badly. But the point I'm trying to make is, you know, those things that sound like cliches, and I call them bumper sticker quotes. I know firsthand how devastating rejection after rejection and then some more rejection is. I know what it is to apply yourself and work towards. I mean, I worked for easily over 6 months for Chevening, and I didn't get it. And yeah, of course, when you've watched that other video, it's easy to say, like I've already said, oh, you have all these other things you've made. No, I actually let go of some opportunities. For New York University, for example, they wanted me to commit. I think they wanted me to commit by April. Yeah, get a deposit and start working on registration. And I actually let that go because no, there's this opportunity. Chevening will pay for all of my tuition and insurance. Chevening covers everything, right? And I was like, no, New York doesn't make sense for me at this point. And because they wanted for me to pay the 500, yeah, accepting my acceptance offer, even if I was deferring to 2023, I decided it was too much money and I was not gonna pay it, right? So when these rejections come, so things like Chevening, you think about that opportunity that you let go. And there's that also, that more than just the hurt and the disappointment, and there's life altering decisions you make in pursuit of opportunities like this. So I know I know how much it hurts. I think the reason, and I found it in my journal, which is also what prompted this video, I think, is I was going through my journal and I realized that I did everything that I could do. And I think the first thing you need to do is accept, okay, I did all I could do, it didn't work out, what now? For me, the what now looked like going back to those opportunities I put on the back burner for Chevening, because I was like, I'm not gonna go to school in South Africa, I'm not gonna go to school in the US, because this particular opportunity in the UK, they pay for everything. So I'm now having to go back to Zonabo, Washington and others to say, oh, okay, so this is where we're at. Chevening did not work out. This is what my options are. That was acceptance. And then number two is watching your internal dialogue. I think for me, obviously there's things saying pinpoint, this is my fault, this is why this fell through, this is why this didn't work out, I was lacking here, I fumbled here, and all of those things. But I know for a fact that I don't, like, at that point in my life, with where I was in my head, with the resources I had, I gave every single one of those, the interview, the exams, I gave it my best shot. And I'm not gonna sit here and wallow or curl up on the floor and Kiri, I am a failure, or I didn't work hard enough. No. I think even if you're gonna reapply, even if you're gonna write other essays, even if there's things you need to fix in order to improve your chances of getting Chevening the second or the fourth time around, or the seventh time around if you're that person, watch your internal dialogue. I don't think it serves anybody if you're mean to yourself. I don't think it serves anybody if you badger yourself about the shoulda, coulda, woulda. I don't think it helps anybody if you are fixated on the things you didn't do right. So speak to yourself nicely. I think it's done me so much good, and it's the only thing that's kept me sane. And I really don't know how I got over it, because I don't even want to apply again, and I'm over it. It's a thing I pursued and it's behind me now. And I think one of the things that helped me is that Tado said to me, and I think this was even before I got the interview and I was stressing, and she said, I'm paraphrasing. She said, when you're thinking about Chevening, don't think about it as your entire life, which is pretty difficult when you are applying, but it's one thing you're applying for. It's not your entire life. Those people, if they reject your application, they're rejecting your application, not you. Don't internalize that rejection. Don't make it about you. Yeah, maybe for that cycle, you didn't do well enough to get to where you needed to get, or there's better applicants, but it's just that it's an application. Don't internalize it. So that's what I'm trying to say. Watch your internal dialogue. Don't make it about you being a failure. You're not. You really, there's things they meant for you that will find you. Or even if this is meant for you, you'll get it next time. So keep trying if you want to. Move on if you feel that's what you need to do. But be kind to yourself in making those decisions or getting to that point also. And then the third thing that I think helped me was having contingencies, because I think when I was applying and praying and waiting, one of the things the videos because I was also watching a lot of videos motivation and trying to stay and keep a hard posture of faith when you're trusting God for something, right? And a lot of the people I was listening to spoke about letting go and letting God. Don't fixate on the thing. And for me, the thing was Chevening. And the only way I knew how to get out of my own way and sort of breathe and be okay was applying some more. That's why I ended up applying for all of those other things I applied for, because I was like, okay, if this doesn't work out, if I don't get in here, if I don't get in there, that's why I applied all over the world. I was like, I'm applying to South Africa, I'm applying to the US, I'm applying to the UK, I'm applying to Australia. Like, I applied, guys. And that initially was because I was just trying to breathe a little easier, knowing that not all of my eggs are in the Chevening basket, right? So I think that's the thing that helped me also. It helped me then to not fixate, but it helps me now knowing that, okay, that fell through, but I can do this, I can move on here, or I can try again if I want to. I will not. I could never. I don't think that would be good for my mental health. But yeah, have contingency. Even if it means you're the sort of person who's saying, I'm going to apply to Chevening 20 times if I need to. The contingency would then become, start reworking your essays, start updating. I get what you were doing. Your work experience will not be the same a year later. So start reworking on those essays even before your interview outcome, even before the rejection gets here. Start working on contingencies. Okay, if this doesn't work out, what will you do? The thing that also helped me get over my rejections is getting really honest with why I wanted it. With opportunities like Chevening, I guess you have spoken about that in your essay, and you think that's what it was. You think, yeah, I'm selfless. I want to better my community. I want to create impact. It's easy to say those things in your essays. It's easy to convince yourself that your intentions are noble when you're in the process. But I think perspective differs a lot to how solely on the other side and you didn't get it. Now you can really, really be honest with yourself and say, no, I just wanted it because I get to study for 1 year when every other place I was applying to, they would want me to pursue the Master's for 2 years. I think things like that help you when you move forward, and even to get over it, realize, okay, if what I'm looking for is a program that will have me done Gati Master's within a year, then Chevening is not the be all and end all. It's not the only program that would have helped me study Katleyenu. It means you can go to any school in the UK, even without scholarship, and do it that way. If you were in it, I don't want to say in it for the money, but if you were applying because fully funded scholarship, there's opportunities, double Fulbright, there's MasterCard, I think there's other opportunities. If you're doing it to study in the UK, there's other opportunities, there's other things you can pursue. If you're set on Chevening and you want it for the prestige in the UK and the 1 year, and it's all of those things combined, I think it helps to move on and decide the direction in which you ought to go. How to say, well, okay, past the things I wrote in my essay, this is the truth and I'm gonna stick with this thing, I'm gonna apply 7 times. Or you're like, oh, I just wanted a master's degree and it would have been helpful if I had it fully funded, but I'll just try again somewhere or apply differently because all I really want is my master's. You see, I think it helps you to get to a decision. What am I committing to next? Am I giving it all up? Am I trying something else? Am I trying something different? Am I trying the same thing differently? You see, so I think get very honest with yourself. Why did I even bother myself in the first place? Also, where did I go wrong? What didn't I do right? I think in as much as I've said, be kind to yourself, watch your internal dialogue, I think the taking inventory and being very, very honest with yourself helps for you to avoid the same mistakes. And it helps to put things into perspective once you're on the other side especially when the other side is rejection. Because I think if you're accepted or you get in, you just move on to excitement, dealing, ecstasy, where you're just getting into this thing and you're making preparations or you're moving forward in this thing that you've gotten. But yeah, when the other side is failing, I think it forces you, or at least it ought to prompt you to stop and be honest with yourself. And I think the last thing um should be that maybe find support, find people who are willing and able to hold your hand and help you through this. So yeah, that's what I would say. Really, the things that I think really helped me get over my rejection. But take what applies to you and your situation and your life. And I just wanted to use this as an example to say there will be rejections, but what's meant for you will not miss you. I know when you're going through something, or when we go through things, and especially if that thing is rejection, it's difficult to understand why. And even in that season of my life when I was going through rejection after rejection and after rejection, I realized now that the thing that could have potentially hurt my relationship with God is trying to find understanding in real time. Like every time I was being rejected from leads, from for example, I was like, okay, this is cosmic redirection. Maybe God wants me to go to York, and then I don't get into York, and I'm like, God, what are you trying to teach me? What is this lesson I'm trying to learn? And I realized that that's not how it works. Don't try to understand all of it there and then. Don't try to have it make sense. Just accept it as is, and in time you will see. And I think I've already shared with you guys, Holy, my prayer for this year has been, God, please bypass the desires of my heart and do what's best for me. So I think I found comfort in that okay, that's the prayer you came into 2022 praying. That's the prayer you have been praying over every area of your life. If God is not granting you this, then perhaps He's just bypassing the desires of your heart. And now in hindsight, I have no doubt that that's what's happened here. I'm not trying to romanticize rejection. That thing hurt. That thing is painful. That thing is very, very painful. But I also know, which is why I've said I'm sharing this, to say there's highs, there's really, really high highs where you'll get into New York University. You'll have the opportunity to go to Washington University if you want to. But there's really, really low lows. I've spoken a lot about the good things that have happened to me and for me. I just wanted to also share this to give context. Or when we sing songs of praises, and when we say God's goodness, and when we speak about a peace that surpasses all understanding, because I don't know why I'm okay, having worked as hard as I did, having wanted that thing the way I did, and I worked towards it, but I'm okay. So if I speak to you about a peace that surpasses all understanding and yielding to God, and when God says, I don't know how to quote this Bible verse verbatim, and I it's because a whole, but it speaks about I think either dilemo tsohle kapo dintho tsohle tse joweng ke marutle. I think it was during a time of famine, and then ho laba le locusts and le tshenyo e ngata, and then God made a promise to restore, and when He finally came through, it was better than everything that had been lost during disaster in. I think that's how I interpret it every time I tell myself, not just restore, but He will give me more and exceedingly and above all that my heart could ever know to ask for, or my mind could ever fathom would be possible. That's my testimony. That's what I'm trying to say. Oh, okay, it's going to be hard, it's going to be painful when you go through these rejections, and they will come. I don't know why on my channel suddenly we're giving pep talks, but yeah, I think for the people who've watched that video I did about getting into those schools, there's also this video to see that high highs, really, really, really low lows, but you'll be fine despite and in spite of all of it. You come out on the other side and you are happier, fulfilled, more anchored person. And I also, like I said in the beginning of the video, said I'm sharing where I was when I was deciding I needed a break from working and life in general, to where I am now. All of it, past the thing of dikolo le rejection e leng kaofela, all of my reality is a testament to that really God restores. Last year at this time, all I was praying was, God, please get me through today. God, please don't let me lose my mind. And now I'm on top of my game. I'm even vlogging. 300 subscribers. And I love my job and my relationships are great and I'm fulfilled. I love every single thing about my life. And I don't even know how we got here. I don't even know why or when, but God did a work in me. And okay, it's not mushy stuff. Guys, I hope this was helpful. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it really, more than anything, helps some person or some member of this family. Okay, let's go boldly in the direction of our dreams. Moments of sadness and rejection and pain will come, but we're meant for great things. And those that are his and of him, they will come to pass. And I sincerely believe with all of my heart that that's the best life. That's how to live in your best life. And that's the dream.